Friday night, 1:20 a.m., or more precisely, the late hours of Friday stretching into Saturday. I'm on the train from Amsterdam back to Arnhem. Originally scheduled to arrive at 1:30, the schedule now has a plus mark in red, showing a 5 minutes delay. That means it will arrive at 1:35. The battery of my phone is about to die. I carefully count the remaining power, hoping it will last at least until I get home. Then it comes to 1:26. Now the schedule shows a +8, which means it would arrive at 1:38. The train keeps speeding along steadily. Outside the window, it was dark and I could barely tell where I am. And it goes to 1:45. It now showed +17. It's 2 minutes later. Finger crossed. With these repeated delays, every time I thought the train was about to arrive, the arriving time was pushed further. Propping up my exhausted, sleepy brain, a deja vu suddenly hit me. Back when I worked in Taipei, sometimes I took the bus back to my hometown, which always arrived around 1 a.m. as well. But those buses heading to Tainan took 5 hours in total. I'd always rush to the toilets at halfway stop, afraid the bus would leave before I was back. So, is a 1-hour journey like this not quite long? A friend of mine once described time as subjective. Time flies in happiness, yet seems endless during the toughest moments. The toughest is when it's always different, it's always changing, and you're always waiting with anxiety. When someone asks where I'm from, I say it takes 14 hours to get there by flight. But beside that, there's a 7-hour time difference between Taiwan and here. How long is 7 hours? It's more than half a circle on the clock face. When I wake up at 7 in the morning, let's assume there's someone corresponding to me living there, having his 2 p.m. just finished lunch and starting his afternoon work. When I have my lunch at 12, he's eating too, but his dinner at 7 p.m. And my 4 in the afternoon is his 11 at night, when he's probably going to bed. My 6 p.m. will be his 1 a.m., perhaps. Like me on this train now, someone also loses all the track of time and distance. Or maybe he's already sleeping soundly. Only after getting used to long-haul flights did I realize the departure and arrival times printed on tickets always refer to local time. The actual flight duration and time zone boundaries offset each other, so time gets added and subtracted, making calculations complicated. Many people adjust their watches all at once, only at the destination. The time shows on the screen in the plan is generally correct, yet I often find myself trapped in a disorienting illusion about time. Last summer, I was in Taiwan during the summer break. I still remember the day before my departure, sitting on a riverbank, watching the night sky with the plane slowly took off. The sky was clear, and the light on the plane turned smaller and smaller as it receded. It was 11:30 p.m., and I realized that was the exact time I'd be boarding my flight the next day. The idea that the next day I'd be up there even smaller than the flickering light suddenly struck me as strangely surreal. That summer, I went to a cinema in Tainan one last time with a friend, because after that movie was over, the cinema was closing down. I remember myself quietly crying during the movie. Was it because of the movie, or because of everything came to an end while being away from here for years? Only after the lights on, seeing the surrounding, I could locate myself again, and a friend asked me, Do you remember what was the first movie you watched here? That was many years ago that I really couldn't recall, but I would definitely remember the last one I watched here. On airplanes, people watch movies all the time. Reading becomes difficult in that dim, swaying space, and the engine noise makes listening to music a difficult choice. So it turns out like a cinema, but individually. The day before the flight, I'd been so busy that I barely slept. At the moment I sat down, I was extremely exhausted, almost running into sleepness. I was so tired that the general seat on the plane felt as cozy as reminding me of my parents' couch. At their place, I'd often settle down on the couch watching movies, slowly falling into sleep. Before falling asleep, I remember the screen showed 12 hours left before arrival. I still remember the first time I came to the Netherlands. I had a transfer in Dubai with a friend at 4 in the morning. The place was so empty, as if no one was awake. Now I'm not quite sure if 4 o'clock was local time, departure time, or destination time though. But I was again as exhausted as I hadn't slept or been awakened at 4. During the short transfer time, we entered a wide, empty smoking room with large windows and big tables. We had one cigarette after another. There was a hidden ashtray in the center of the table that once we put it out, the whole room remained spotless as if nothing had happened there. Even the smell faded soon. Whenever I travel between here and Taiwan, I tend to choose the flight departs at 11:30 because it lands early in the morning in Europe, aligning best with sleeping routine. Since taking off, outside the window is fully darkness. Flying from east to west brings you into an endless night. When the plane heads to the west for a while, the local time zone shifts back an hour. The hour of flight, the hour of distance, makes everything that happens between never exist. And the 14 hours of flying feels like never-ending dream at midnight. The cabin lights dim accordingly. Some people are deeply asleep, while others still have their movies playing, screens left glowing in the dark. I woke up in the middle with the slides swaying, with eyes closed. I told myself I was probably watching a movie on my parents' couch. When the movie ended that day at the cinema, the next question my friend asked was, "What do you think this place will be like in the future?" I imagined these facilities might be taken over by another cinema company, perhaps turns into some kinds of themed shops or restaurants. I felt resistance of those ideas. Maybe it was because the idea of a familiar space filled with something similar yet completely different felt so wrong. So I replied, I'd rather it turned into ruins. No one should be allowed to enter. Dust would settle everywhere until the air itself froze solid, and the ceiling collapsed piece by piece. That scene felt strangely unfamiliar to me as well. Was this what I truly wanted? What I longed for most, I guess, was to have it remain exactly as usual. Like every time I walked in without a plan, randomly picked a movie, all the lights still on, people in line buying tickets, with the scent of popcorn in the air, and a deep rumble of speakers through the walls. And I awoke on the plane, found out it was already morning outside. The cabin lights turned on, people pulled back their window shades. I looked at the screen. The movie had ended. It indicates there was 2 hours before landing. The distance and countdown would eventually reach to 0. And so the late night NS train I'm taking, which finally arrived after several delays and uncertainty, so as the flights. After the movies ended, lights on, people leave the cinema back to their own days.